going on, Los Angeles? What's up, Ramley? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network, live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Happy Friday to everyone out there getting excited for the weekend. Unfortunately, might not be a ton of excitement heading into the weekend based on breaking news. We were about to jump on and record, and this happened right before. So our plan today was to talk about Cam Curl, great free agent signing that dropped late last night. 25-year-old safety from Washington signs a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Rams, gives great talent and versatility. We might touch on that, but most likely, most of our time we'll talk about this new breaking news. The GOAT, the great Aaron Donald, has announced his retirement from the NFL, leaving a gaping hole with the Rams defense, leaving a hole in Los Angeles as a fan favorite. Obviously, we'll get into what it means and talk about just the impact he has and the great career he's had, and best of luck to him moving forward. But wow, wild news happening here early morning LA. But first, my man Skinny T, aside from this news that now we got to dive into, how's your morning treating you?
I'm heading out of town for a couple of days, heading up to Cambria along the beautiful coast just north of Santa Barbara a little ways. And, I was just getting to packing, and then this news dropped and everything changed. You know, it's just, wow. I mean, we'll talk all about it, but what a shocker.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be the first to admit I was definitely wrong. We talked, I think it was just last week, because there was some chatter about his void years after this season, having 2 void years. He has a 3-year deal, and of the final 2 years are both void years. And there was like some concern, like, oh, could he retire? Could he void after this year and go to a new team? And I was pretty confident, like, no, I mean, I knew he would be a Ram, so I guess I got that right. But I was pretty confident this year, coming back with the Super Bowl opportunity here and this late in the offseason. So wrong on that, obviously. And the GOAT does decide to retire. So crazy, right? Real quick before we get into it, shout out to our friends over at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. I don't know if these odds were up there, but if you could have bet on Aaron Donald retiring, you would have been probably one of the few. But a lot of stuff to go on right there. NBA, NHL, MLB starting. Draft stuff is all on BetOnline. You can bet on, who's going to be the first pick, which you should be betting Caleb Williams because that is going to be the first pick, but all that after that. So betonline.ag, promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny sent you. All right. So first, just I know we kind of said it, but we're still kind of just in shock here. Just your initial reaction to Aaron Donald. We don't have to talk about the Rams yet, like what it means for the Rams, but just, on the GOAT, I think he'll go down as the greatest Ram ever. And so just your thoughts on
it? Greatest defensive player of all time in that conversation. Yeah. Right up there with LT. Dominant force. This defense revolved around him. He raised the level of the defense, every defense he played on. Players got better when they played around him. I mean, my mind is just swirling. So many questions that it raises. We were looking at stats before we hopped on, and the stats just don't do it justice. He's 40th all time in sacks in 10 seasons. 111 sacks, 3-time defensive player of the year. I don't know if there's probably other people in that strata, but not a lot, and probably deserves more defensive players of the year. But there's always that fatigue where they have to vote for somebody else just because they can't do it, 2-3 years in a row, whatever. Yeah. So, Super Bowl champion, huge reason the Rams were, So those are initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think I go back to, longest tenured Ram, drafted in St. Louis. So very cool that he spent his entire career with the Rams organization, his entire 10-year career. Goes out, I think, on top. Like, yeah, they didn't win the Super Bowl last year, but goes out, fully healthy, coming off another tremendous year. That's all a dude does is put out tremendous years, but doesn't go out as a guy that was aging or declining. I don't think it looked like he lost a step last year. And he was instrumental in Kobe Turner's development. Obviously, a lot of that credit goes to, Coach Henderson as well. But I think when you play alongside Aaron Donald, it's going to elevate everybody. He's that true. When you think of like legendary players in the game, stats tell one story, Super Bowl wins tell one story, but how you elevate your teammates tells a big part of the story. And that's not a stat you can put on paper or a data point. But when you look at the likes of like a John Elway or, Tom Brady or some of these other greats, it's like, how did they elevate the guys around them? And I think it's Aaron Donald truly was the catalyst of that in elevating guys around him. And you look at the defense last year, we talked all the time, Skinny, about how, playing above expectations and really, I think, surprising a lot of people. But I think Aaron Donald patched a lot of poor play up with his supreme play. I mean, we were getting double and triple teamed. It's going to allow guys like Kobe Turner to have great rookie years. It's going to allow guys like Byron Young to develop quicker when he's facing less pressure. It's going to allow guys like Michael Hoyt to have career years. And it's going to allow young people on the back end a little more room for error when you have the greatest to ever do it up front, wreaking havoc on running games and quarterbacks. So the greatest, a sad day for LA football, sad day for the Rams. Excited to see what Aaron Donald does next. Still young. What is he, 33, 32? I mean, young guys, got a family, beautiful family, father, husband, obviously. So, I think that's a big reason why he's doing this. I'm sure he'll do something else. I mean, maybe he'll end up on the USC Trojans coaching staff with Coach Henny. Who knows? Maybe that's what's going down. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, kudos to him. Just, one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, and talk about his durability as well. That was, something that probably flew under the radar, but didn't miss a lot of games over his time, over his 10 years. Even sometimes playing through pain. I remember that playoff game where I think he had dislocated some cartilage in his ribs, which just sounds terrible. I've messed up my ribs snowboarding a couple of times, and you can't really do anything. And he's going out there wreaking havoc again. So yeah, exactly. But like that's a part of the questions that are going through. It's why now? What was it what's the decision making process for him? Reports from Jordan Rodriguez are that the team did know, which raises a whole other list of questions about their investment on defense and what they've done so far. DJ Reader, that would have been a nice addition with this news. But where was I going? Oh, the whys, the team knew, Coach Henderson, who we had a great relationship with, left the team earlier. That was kind of a talking point. And I swept it under the rug just because I like working with my best friend too, but it's not going to like change my career trajectory.
Yeah.
But, I mentioned, the process of preparing and ensuring that you're the best player on the field and improving every year, that's exhausting. So it's, I can't remember who said it, but I don't get paid to play on Sundays. I get paid to prepare to play on Sundays. So I'm paraphrasing that quote, but I wish I remember who it was, but the preparation is what really takes it out of you. Thinking back to two-a-days and, all the conditioning and, this guy's a top peak elite performer, so anyway, the whys, we may never know exactly why he made that choice. But comes off the heels of a restructure as well. And, it's just kind of like a little bit of bizarreness there, and it only makes the waters more muddy.
Yeah. That's kind of and this is, has literally happened 30 minutes ago. So I'm still digesting it, but that's the strange thing to me. We know like him retiring, I don't think is shocking because he's been talking about it since they won the Super Bowl. There was thoughts he may hang it up right after that win, and then he comes back and the whole team deals with injury. They had their worst season ever under Sean McVay. That offseason, they basically tear it down to the studs, even though they called it a remodel, which obviously they did. They made the playoffs still. Decide to come back. Like that would have made sense. Like, okay, yeah, you gave it one more shot. It was a bad year. Came back. But now it's like, okay, you came back after that, and now there's so much excitement. The band's back together. You have you have a lot of draft capital. You have a lot of cap space. Like this is a true like Super Bowl window, everyone calls it, you know, a 3-year window or so, which was what his contract was and what Matthew Stafford's contract is. And probably what Sean McVay contract basically is and what he wants to do. So it's like this is the last 2 to 3 year window with this entire core of Rams. And so it's just very surprising to me that he ended up deciding, and I'm no qualms with it. You know, it's his decision, obviously, and obviously made a good one for his family. But it's surprising after everything that he's been through and all of last year that he didn't want to give this year a shot. And sometimes your body tells you everything you need to know. And like I mentioned earlier, like he's going out on the top of his game and not maybe he felt like he couldn't give enough to be at that level again and didn't want to. Maybe he just felt like he couldn't be the Aaron Donald that everyone knows. Like we won't know unless he comes out and says that. But yeah, it's that. And then as you kind of alluded to, you know, if the Rams did know, which indications are they did, and you would think they did. Like I don't want to, I never like to assume too much, but I don't think Aaron Donald would just spring this on them 4 days
Right.
after free agency started. Like you would think they've had conversations. And so it is just very surprising that they did nothing to address the basically front seven in free agency at all, knowing you're going to have not just a hole at defensive line, but the largest hole in the NFL because he is the best defensive lineman in football. And you're losing him. You didn't add anyone on that front, didn't add any edge rushers on that front. You added a safety, which we were hoping to talk about, Cam Crow, which I think is a great addition. You get
Yep.
Darius Williams back, and that's what you've done. And so, and now all the big names are gone. Like there's still names out there. I'm sure they'll still add someone, but yeah, that is a bigger question to me. Almost is if you knew and this was coming, whether it was guaranteed or not. I'm just shocked they didn't do anything to really, at least. I'm not even saying you're never going to be as good, but at least try to fortify that area because I mean, now I guess you go into the, like I said, there's still time to add people, but now you go into the draft and, you know, you have a lot of holes now.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots, even more, we've been talking about edge forever, cornerback forever. And people told us to relax. It's going to be okay. Like they're going to invest on defense through the draft and they'll pick up a sleeper or something like that. And like all that's out the window now, you're not finding, certainly not in this draft. You're not finding an Aaron Donald in the first round at 19 even. Maybe that's where they end up going. But you mentioned the rebuild, and in that process, Les Snead talked about the pillars of the team being Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald. And now you take that pillar out, and you're just standing on two legs. And just from a numbers standpoint, they have to replace 87 pressures. This is just from last year: 87 pressures, 10 sacks, 47 tackles. Those are just the pure numbers that you're looking to replace. He led the team in pressures by far. These are PFF's pressure numbers. Kobe Turner was the next with 50. Ernest Jones was, Byron Young was next with 51. Kobe Turner with 50. Michael Hoyt with 43. Hoyt's back too. We haven't talked about that. Ernest Jones with 37. So there's a big drop off, from 87 to 51. So, we're saying the obvious, which is this defense didn't get better with this news. And you think about the cap implications of this. We've said it 3 or 4 times now. He represented well over half of what the total defensive investment was. Now that all goes back into the kitty. They're able to use that cap space, some $25 million worth of cap space. But, this is a guy that is bigger than his contract, which you don't get that a lot. Usually players get paid, more than they're worth at this point. He's under compensated.
Yeah. Always undervalued. And, but yeah, I mean, that just goes into that kind of what I was saying. Like if they knew this was coming, that's money they could have used to go and get some of these, players, and, an Eric Armstead, perhaps. Like you're never going to replace Aaron Donald, but you got to at least try to get someone in there. I mean, you look at the depth chart right now, and again, we realize this is not doomsday. Like there's still a lot of moves to be had, and if anyone can work out of stuff like this, it is the great Lester P. Snead and Sean McVay. But I mean, you're looking at your front three now as, Bobby Brown at nose, Kobe Turner, great. And what, Deshaun Johnson?
Yeah.
That's what you're looking at right now. So, I mean, there's going to be additions made, obviously, but yeah, it's a pretty massive drop off now, and it always was going to be from Aaron Donald, but now it's a cliff. It goes from a drop off to a cliff now because you're going with a third tier talent wise player or a rookie,
Yeah.
and you can hope for the same kind of production out of a new rookie that you got from Kobe Turner, but you can't plan for that. That's not something you can ever plan for. That's a hope, and you don't have the great Eric Henderson developing now. Give Smith, who I said before, I think was a good hire, good replacement, but I think that's a drop off too. You go from, in my opinion, the best defensive line coach in football to a very good one in Give Smith, but it's a drop off. And so, as we said last on our live show, we have more questions than answers right now, and the signing of Cam Curl, we haven't really talked about it. We haven't been able to. We'll talk a lot about it probably on Monday. I think was a very good one. That answered some questions, and they got it for a nice price, 2 years, $13 million, tons of talent. What do you say? He's lined up all over the place, right? When you're looking at his kind of his actual
half his snaps were taken in the box, and it was around 400 snaps. And between Jordan Fuller and Russ Yeast, they combined for about 450 in the box. So it's it's either he's a strange addition to this defense, or it's signaling a change in how they're doing things. And obviously with this news, like, you're going to need to stack the box a bit more.
Yeah. That might be that's a telling sign that they maybe did know, like, we need a safety that can play in the box. And if we need to stack that, because we can't just rely on the great Aaron Donald to take care of us anymore. So that was a question answered. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just looking at kind of the available defensive lineman, free agent defensive lineman, and the top has really been taken off. Calais Campbell's available. Sebastian Joseph Day. They were reuniting guys. Solomon Thomas. Dudes. But not. I'm not obviously not anywhere near Aaron Donald, but I've had a hard time staying on starting positions on rosters. So
yeah. I mean,
I don't mean to be doomsday, but this is the reality.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're looking at now is journeyman. You're looking at journeymen to come in and kind of be spot starters and give you something. So which I think they'll do, and this now puts and maybe this maybe was part of the conversation too. The more I'm just kind of peeling the onion back, maybe it's like, look, we know Aaron Donald's retiring. There's no way to replace him. So do we spend big in a small drop off, or do we just crush the offense and say, offense, you got to score 30 plus a game, defense, and we're going to develop young guys, and hopefully by next year we have some dudes on defense, but we're not going to put any cap towards the defense because we can't replace that. Like we could go spend what did Eric Armstead end up getting? Do you remember off the top of your head? It was it was a 2 or 3-year deal, but let's just say ballpark, 18 million. We could go spend 18 million of what we were giving Donald to a guy that would be a nice asset, but do we think that gives us a better chance? Or do we roll the dice on journeymen and rookies and just really fortify our offense that we know, with the prowess of Sean McVay's play calling, with the greatness of Matthew Stafford, that's going to be our bread and butter, and the defense will just kind of pull it along and hope we can develop guys the way we did last year. I mean, maybe that was the thought process, is they didn't want to put cap towards it because there's no way to replace Aaron Donald, so why throw money at it? I'm not saying do that, but maybe that's not positive.
Certainly one way to think about it. Interesting name to watch at 19 in the draft, since I kind of brought it up. Byron Murphy from Texas.
Yeah. If he makes it there, that's
the top. And he's got some, athletically speaking, he's got some comps toward Aaron Donald. He didn't have the college production anywhere close to the college production that Aaron Donald had over his career at Pitt, but just a name to throw out there.
Yeah. If he falls there, obviously edge was the thought, but if a guy like Murphy makes it to 19, I think that's a home run now with no AD there. So, this opens up your draft, which they always I think had versatility to be able to draft. They weren't totally pigeonholed. Obviously, we've been talking a lot as of right now. Edge was the major need. Now that they've signed some secondary guys, but now it's basically just defensive line. And knowing, as we've said, knowing less, they'll go offensive tackle or something at 19 and throw everyone off. But yeah. Any we'll keep this kind of short. Just a quick reaction here. We'll talk a lot more on Monday when you're back about the Cam Curl signing, kind of what it means, and also just the more, letting a few days pass, the repercussions of this. But any final thoughts or parting words on this big news?
Yeah, I'm sorry to see him go. It was fun watching you, Aaron Donald. I know you listen to the podcast. I know you download.
Of course.
You gotta love everything that he did, sticking around the franchise through the good times and the bad, consistency, and just a fun player, and just thank him, and that's all.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Great player. Will be missed. Wish nothing but the best for Aaron Donald and his family moving forward. Excited to see what he does next. Whether it's in coaching, whether it's in media, whether it's completely separate from sports and football. Excited to see him. So thanks for, it was a blast covering him. We got to meet him a couple times at, OTAs and mini camps and stuff out in Thousand Oaks and at training camps. And, I think quarterbacks around the NFL are rejoicing today. That's certainly the case, especially in the NFC West. I think a lot of quarterbacks are happy. But yeah, big news. The greatest to ever do it. In my opinion, the greatest defender of all time, the greatest Ram of all time, announces he is retiring from the NFL after 10 years in the NFL with one organization. Your Los Angeles Rams. Was drafted at the time the St. Louis Rams. So hats off to AT. Hell of a career. But that will do it for us. Thank you all for hanging out with us on the Rams Skinny here. We'll be back Monday, breaking everything down that's transpired and kind of pulling back more as the dominoes fall from this big news. And we'll see if any signings happen over the weekend. So everyone be well, be safe. Thank you for, as always, supporting us. This is the Rams Skinny. For Skinny T, I'm Ryan Darrett. Everyone take care.